one of the human tendencies, I have this, you have this, everyone has this, is we tend to look at what the competition is doing. And not only do we look at what the competition is doing, we place a lot of weightage on what the competition is doing. I've had many client conversations where one of two things will happen. They will either tell me that, look, my competitors are doing this, we must do this as well. Or if I come up with an idea that none of their competitors are doing, they'll be like, well, none of my competitors are doing it. It's probably a bad idea. And by the way, I totally understand where they're coming from and it totally makes sense. But I want to, Lorenzo, in this 10-minute session, talk to you about or get your perspective on why it can potentially be dangerous to look at the competition. I'll kind of start off with one of the thoughts that I have, which is that we literally have no context about the competitor's business. And I can say this because I'm qualified to say this. Over the last 13 years, I have looked at data for at least 400 or 500 e-commerce websites, and I've looked at their analytics data. And I can tell you that it's all oftentimes quite shocking to me. What seems on the surface to be like really positive is actually pretty ugly at the data level. And so a classic example of this is that sometimes this is a classic mistake we make, is that we look at our competitors, and if they are advertising aggressively, the assumption is that, oh my God, they've figured out something. That's not always true. I've looked at data where I've noticed that clients are losing massive amounts of money because they're spending so much in advertising. But for an outsider, they are looking at that ads and saying they must have figured it out. So let's also copy this idea. So that's just one example of why it's dangerous to copy the competition. The other reason, you don't actually know what their profit margins are. So they could actually be very low margins, or they could be very high margins. And so it's difficult to, unless if you have done the exact same manufacturing process as them, you don't really know. You're just speculating. So those are the two reasons I can think of. The third reason I should mention is that I think it distracts you, because it forces you to kind of remember, when you copy someone, at best you can be just a little lower than what they are, right? When you copy, you're limited by that. In order, if you want to leapfrog in front of them, you're going to have to do things that they haven't even thought about. So those are my three reasons. But now I want to kind of get your perspective, Lorenzo, because I know you have a lot of thoughts on this as well.
Well, I'll be very short. The way I think about this topic is very simple. Pumping competition, generally speaking, I'm not a fan of it. But this concept has product market fit, meaning that everybody, like I've never met anybody that is very opinionated about not copying competition. So, 99% of the people, and I'm making this up in terms of percentage, tends to copy competition, or at least naturally has a behavior towards that. So what happens is that I became a little bit tired of saying don't copy competition, because that's what everybody does. So that statement is right, but doesn't have product market fit, because it's almost, I'm going to be dramatic now, Rishi. It's like in Italy, it's very, very, very popular for young kids to smoke cigarettes, right? So it's very common. It's like everybody says, oh, smoking kills, but then we have millions of new kids every year that start smoking. So that scent, and again, I'm being extremely dramatic, and maybe this is a bad comparison, but what I'm trying to say here is that unfortunately, keep on saying that copy competition is not good is not going to change the behavior of people, because the default behavior of people is to copy competition.
Yeah, and I want to end with an analogy. It's the same analogy as the life that people project on social media. Everyone's life is perfect. In fact, one of the reasons why we have massive teenage depression in the US and rest of the world is because they're looking at their friends, they're looking at their fabulous vacations and their fabulous lives. And what is being shown on social media is just a subset. And that's the same about your, it's the same analogy as the way as what you're seeing about your competition. You're seeing only a very small aspect. You have no idea. And so, Lorenzo and I actually look at this data, and I can just tell you, like, it's, first of all, it's of no use to kind of think about the competition. But even if you are obsessing about the competition, trust us when we say that, what you see is often different than what the data is telling you. So just create your own path.
When I get very angry in regards to this topic, when somebody comes to me and says, "Oh, who does what you're suggesting?" Nobody does what you're suggesting. And that's exactly when I get super mad, because that's exactly the reason why you should do it, because nobody else is doing it. And I get super, super pissed when somebody makes that remark and gives me that opinion.
That's no, you're exactly right. I think it's a really good point. So we wanted to just talk about this because I know that some of the listeners probably are thinking about this, and hopefully this has given you some insights. I think I want to, every free hour that you have, think about ideas that don't even exist. Ultimately, the fastest growing companies are doing things that no one else is doing. So looking at the competition is not the way to do that. You can only be the, at best you can play the second role. And so I think the opportunity is to, if the goal is to leapfrog in front of the competition, is to do things differently. So have a good day, guys, and give us your thoughts. Give us a thumbs up if you like it. Subscribe if you haven't. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.
Ciao, ciao.